If you're looking for highly customizable Dragonflight Class WeakAuras, well, you're watching the right video. I'll be showing you how to install and properly customize them to your liking. But we do have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Alright, so let's begin with the installation. But before we do anything, just like any brand new expansion, I'm going to recommend that you delete the old WeakAuras. First of all, that you're not using, but also the ones that you're going to be updating. So there's a lot of things that are going to change here, and this is going to ensure that you get a clean new install, and it's simply going to limit the risk of possible issues. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So in Shadowland, we had 3 groups, so we're going to go ahead and delete all of these: the core, dynamic, and the utilities. So once all of these are deleted, you're going to be good to go to import the new script. All right, so let's head over to luxstones.com in order to copy the import code for the new WeakAuras. The link is going to be provided in the description down below the video. We're going to scroll down on the page. We're going to click the button to copy the import code and head back to World of Warcraft. Once you're in game, you're simply going to type /WA over here, and you're going to click the import button here, and then you're going to paste the import code right here. You're going to click import. We're going to wait a little bit. We're going to close the WeakAura panel. We're going to give it a quick /reload just to make sure everything is all right, and we should be good to go. So a couple important things to keep in mind here is that, first of all, we only have 1 group to import. So contrary to Shadowland, where we had 3, now everything is grouped up under the same wrapper, under the same group here. It's going to be also very important for you to check that the name of the group are all correct here. You don't want any numbers at the end of any of those groups. That would indicate that you have duplicates. So make sure that you properly delete. If you ever had to re-import, make sure that you properly delete. Nothing needs to have a number here. If that's the case, then you're going to be good and ready to go. All right, so one last thing on our list here before we move on to the customization. We need to make sure that you activate the action bar cooldown number in the interface option. Because without this, if you're using default UI, you're not going to see any number on the actual cooldowns of your ability. In Dragonflight, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to click options here. You're going to type cooldown in the search bar, and then you're going to see here show numbers for cooldown. You want to make sure that this is checked. So again, without this option here, you're not going to see any of the cooldown number. If you want to change the look and behavior of those numbers, you can use an add-on like OmniCC or something a little bit more complex like LVY. It's important to notice, though, that both of these add-ons will replace the default number, so you want to make sure that you don't have both active at the same time, because you might see some cooldown overlaps. All right, so let's start here with the customization, and we're going to go over the probably most important step, which is going to be the group scale and the positioning of your ores. So pretty straightforward. You're going to click on the group of your class. Obviously, we're using Warlock right now, but you're going to be able to do this on any of the Class WeakAuras. Click the group over here. You're going to go over to the group tab, and you're going to be able here to change the scale. So depending on your resolution, your UI render scale, and all of those things, you might want to have this set up differently. Also, if you want, you might want to move them up or down here. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that all of the groups inside the core group right here are dynamically positioned. So there's going to be some custom option here that we're going to go over that are going to allow you to increase the spacing between the element, but I recommend that you do not move each individual group. Everything has been thought out to be used as a complete group for the WeakAuras, and everything right now is positioned dynamically where it needs to be. So make sure you don't modify each individual group's position with the X and Y offset. I'm going to invite you to look over to the custom option here, which we are going to cover. Before we go over all of the custom options here, I just want to take a look at every single group and give you a quick rundown and overview of what they do and what they contain. So you're going to have your two settings here, your two settings layer, which are going to contain your custom option. You don't need to touch those directly here. You're going to be able to access the custom options. But this is where your abilities are. So if you remember in Shadowland, we had 3 separate groups. Now all of these are pretty much built into one big group, and you're going to have all your abilities over here. The most important group here that we're going to start with is going to be the core. The core is going to contain all of your rotational and cooldown abilities. Whether you're a tank, a healer, or a DPS, you're going to get all of your main ability listed in here for your entire spec. So if you want to change anything here, you want to move things around, feel free to do so. You can move the order of all your abilities here. If I want Agony to show up before Unstable Affliction, for example, I can do that. I can do pretty much anything I want here with these. I could even move them to other groups. So if you want to position these differently, you're going to be able to do that. When I'm talking about moving to other group, I'm mostly referencing here, for example, to the left and right side group. These have been created for you to be able to mimic the Shadowland design that we had. So if you remember here, we don't have any side groups like Shadowland. But if you want to go back to that, if that's something that you really enjoyed, having your DPS cooldown on the side, you can do that. So you can take, for example, your cooldown, so summon Dark Glare for Affliction. We're going to simply click, drag, and drop onto the left side here. We're going to close the WeakAura panel. We're going to give it a quick /reload just to make sure everything is all right. And you can see now that the ability is sitting right here on the left side. You're going to be able to do the same thing with your interrupt on the other side. For example, if you're used to the Shadowland design, that's going to be a possibility. We're going to move this back where it was. There we go. We're going to close this one out, and we're going to move on to the dynamic effects here. So the dynamic effects are going to be all your procs. You're pretty much used to this. This is going to be all of the things that are, you know, little buffs and debuff that are temporary. Your set bonus, all of that is going to show up right in here. So we went over the core with the abilities, the left and the right side. We're going to move on to the utilities here. Utilities right now contains all of the utilities for your class, your defensive, your movement ability, all of those things, your interrupt, and all of this. This is going to show up right here at the bottom. As you can see, nothing is showing at the moment. That's because they're only going to show up on use. So, for example, if I activate my defensive here, it's going to show me this ability, and it's going to then show me the cooldown once the active state is over. So this is pretty similar to how we had it in Shadowland. If you want to change this behavior, you're going to be able to do that. So if you click, for example, on the utilities here, this is going to be one of the first custom options that we look at. If you open this menu, you're going to see display behavior. You're going to be able to always show or show on cooldown. So if you close this, you'll see that all my abilities are showing here. We just need to reload for allowing it to position itself. And here we go. All of the abilities are showing up. We're going to be able to customize the size of these so that more can fit in a single row. That's going to be a possibility. But also, one of the cool things is if you only want certain ability to show on all the time, you can do that. So let's say that you really want to see both of your defensive here. You want them to show at all time. You can do that while leaving all of the other ones show on cooldown. And you're going to be good to go here. So you're going to see that the ability right here are showing up at all time. And all the other ones are still only showing up when they're active or on cooldown. So that's pretty cool. We're going to go ahead and reset this to show on cooldown here. Very straightforward. So you have full customization here over the utilities and how they show up in their behavior. Next group here is going to be the maintenance. Warlock is pretty low maintenance right now. So you have, for example, the Inquisitor Gaze and Grimoire of Sacrifice here, which are little maintenance buff. For other class, it could have your Arcane Intellect, your Battle Shout, all of those things. And it goes even into a lot more abilities for some other classes, right? So, for example, for Warlock here, if I go in combat, you're going to see that the maintenance group is going to show me, hey, you're missing Grimoire of Sacrifice. So I can simply summon my Fell Hunter here. And we're going to be able to Grimoire of Sacrifice, and the buff is going to go away. You notice that it didn't show up until I actually got in combat. This is because I'm in a rested area. So outside of a rested area, if you're not in Undercity or your main faction town, everything is going to be showing up. It's going to be showing up if you're missing something outside of rested area, or if you're in a rested area, practicing on target dummies, going in combat will make them show and give you a quick little reminder. So you can change this behavior here, the same thing. So if you click on maintenance, for example, you go into the custom option, you're going to open this up. You'll see that I have Grimoire of Sacrifice and Inquisitor's Gaze. I can change their behavior. Right now, they only show if they're missing, but if you want, you can show it to always show or only show if applied. So for Grimoire of Sacrifice, if I do always show and I close it up, as soon as I go in combat, it's always going to show even if it's not missing, right? So that's going to be the difference here. So if you want to keep up with this, you're going to be able to, and then you can simply revert it back, or you can simply click reset to default here. It's going to reset everything to how it originally was. All right, now we have the resources group here. So for Warlock, this is going to include your health bar. Yes, we do now have a health bar. So the health bar is set to never load by default because this is not necessarily one of the most popular choice in general. So I simply decide to never load. We're going to uncheck it right here. And we're going to give it a quick /reload, let everything the chance to position itself. And you're going to see that we're going to be good to go here. We're seeing the absorb right now from Soul Leech. So the absorb is going to be showing on your health bar right here. So that's going to be pretty cool. You're going to be able to customize that as you want. But right now we're going to go back and unload it right here. We're going to have our soul shard, so all your primary resources, if you have bar, like charges ability and all that good stuff, and then your cast bar is going to be right here at the bottom. If you want to remove the casting bar, if you want to use your own or whatever else, simply click on it, go to load tab here, go to never, click this, and now the casting bar is going to be gone. You simply need to do a quick /reload to regain the original default casting bar or the one provided by your add-on. So the cool thing about this here is you can actually move the order of these things. So if I want my soul shard to show below my casting bar, for example, that's a possibility. There we go. So now if I do a quick reload, you're going to see that there's now a space here for my casting bar. So it's right here. It's sitting right there. So that's a choice. This could come in handy when I show you the custom option here to move the resources above the icon here. So this could be one thing that you decide to do is to have your casting bar at the top over here, but we're getting ahead of ourselves right now. So we're going to show you guys all of these new custom options to customize your design. So this is going to be very important note for the resources. I know a lot of people enjoy just grabbing the resources. These are made and customized to be within this group. If you try to move this elsewhere, it's not going to work. It's currently tied to the rest of the group. And also there's some setting in here that are needed from the custom option to work properly. So you're not going to be able to remove these and use them elsewhere, for example. But you're going to be able to heavily customize them with the custom option. So you should be good to go to achieve something that you enjoy. All right, so let's move on to one of my favorite part of the new WeakAuras. It's going to be the custom options. This is going to be where you're going to spend most of your time if you want to customize the design, if you want to change things. We've created a bunch of custom options that are going to make it very, very easy and globally to modify all of the design and the behavior of your WeakAuras. So there's a general option layer here, which contains all the settings for what I would consider global style. So all of this here, all the global configuration is something that can be shared across multiple classes, for example. You know, if you want to go and copy the custom configuration and paste it onto your other classes in order to have it be similar, you're going to be able to do that. So you could literally copy this and then paste it onto another general option for one of your other classes, right? But then you're going to have the class option here, which are specific to that class. But if you click the top group here and you go in custom option, you're going to be able to see everything. This includes all the setting for the maintenance, all the setting for the utilities here that we saw a couple of seconds ago. All of that is going to get merged if you click on the group here. You're going to be able to modify all of these. So we're going to start with the global style here. This one is going to allow you to do a couple of cool things. So you're going to be able to change, for example, the border on everything here, all the icons, the bar, all of that. You're going to be able to apply a full border right here. So if you close this up, give it a quick reload, make sure everything is working correctly, you're going to be able to see that everything now has a nice little black border. So that's pretty neat. You're going to be able to change the color of that border. If you ever want to have another different color, you can do that, right? I mean, obviously, most people are going to stay default with this color, but it's a possibility. You can change the zoom of the icon. So if you want the icon to go back to their default World of Warcraft look with the, the original border, that's going to be a possibility here. So we're going to set that back to 30%. This allows us to get rid of this little border around there. If you don't want the border to apply to the resources, that's going to be something you're going to be able to do as well right here. We're going to reset that back down to 0. If you put something like 1, for example, here for the border, and you can see that it might give you some half pixel or, like a double border on one side, this could be due to your render UI. So, for example, if you put 1 and you're seeing some uneven border, try to play with the group scale to try to get it pixel perfect with your render scale. You're going to see here that the border is slightly moving. It's hard to notice, but you're going to notice it here at the bottom. So if you're getting uneven border, make sure to play around with your render and the group scale, and you should be good to go. We have also the alpha option here. So we got 2 settings. If you want your auras at all time to have a faded look, if you want to, I don't know, you think that the auras maybe they're preventing you from seeing exactly what's happening to your character, you could try to reduce their alpha a little bit here. It's going to allow you to still see what's going on if you're in combat, but it's not going to be quite as disturbing. So that's a possibility that you can do here. You're going to be able to reduce this global alpha, but notice that no matter what you do, this global alpha will pretty much always take precedence. So this is going to always reduce the alpha no matter what, even in combat, right? The other one here is the out of combat alpha. So this one, every time you go in combat, it will erase that setting. So if you want the WeakAuras to not show in combat, this is how you're going to do it. The new WeakAuras, the way that they work is there's a little bit of code here that makes sure that everything is positioned properly and behaves dynamically with your styling option. For that reason, you're not going to be able to go into the load option and check never here. Because what's going to happen is all of the custom option here are going to be unloaded, and then when you get in combat, you're going to get some issues. For this reason, you can use the out of combat alpha setting here. You can also decide to ignore this setting on enemy and friendly target. If you're a DPS, a healer, that's a pretty useful setting. So what's going to happen here is you're going to see that while I'm just hanging out here, my WeakAuras aren't showing, but as soon as I target something, they're going to show up. So you can also have it so that targeting doesn't affect it, right? You simply need to go in combat for them to show, so that's a possibility here. So if you want them to not show up outside of combat, make sure you toggle that option here. There we go. Moving on with the icon size and spacing here. So this is where you're going to be able to control the behavior of pretty much all the dimensions of the icon, the spacing, everything here. So we can start with the core right here. That's going to be the core group that we mentioned a little bit earlier. You're going to be able to change the width of the icon. As you can see, everything is adapting dynamically here with the icon. So if you want to go for, a little bit more of a rectangular square look like this, you're going to be able to do that. So that's pretty cool here. And then we can even, like a lot of people really like this style, so we can even apply like a 2-pixel border here. And that's going to look pretty good. We can lower a little bit the spacing here. The spacing here for the core is going to affect the resources spacing as well. So let's leave it at 1 like this. If you want, you can increase the number of icon here that are going to be showing up on the main line. So if you want to have 12, you can do that. If you want to have 4, you can do that. Just keep in mind, obviously, that if you go for 4, these ability here are going to start piling up because they also need to reserve some space here for the dynamic effects. So make sure you keep that in mind. Right now, it's defaulted at 8 to give as much room as possible with all the new Dragonflight abilities, right? But for example, let's say we actually go back here to the soul swap mechanic. I'm going to be able to accommodate for some space here if I want to. So let's say that I want it to be on the main line. I can do that. It's automatically going to position itself here. But we're going to go back to the original setting here, and we're going to remove Soul Swap just for the purpose of this video. This is going to work for every class, by the way. We're on Warlock right now, but this is a setting that's going to behave the same on every class. Just like I showed a little bit earlier here, you're going to be able to move the resources above the main icon right here. So by default, it's going to create a gap here. That's because of the casting bar that's sitting there. You can either remove it or change its position, like we explained a little bit earlier, by moving the casting bar over your resources if you want to. So that's going to be a possibility here. The top icon is going to be everything that's at the top. So the overflow and the dynamic effects. You're going to be able at the same time also to change their height, for example, if you want the same style, change their spacing, and also you can increase the bottom margin. So that's how far they're sitting from this group right here. Currently, right now, the slider stops at 50, but hey, if you want, you can type 100. They're going to go all the way up here. So if you want to fit maybe your nameplate, your health plate in the middle here, or you want to do something crazy, feel free to do whatever you want here. You can increase this margin to give yourself some space. The side icon, you're going to get the same thing. You can reduce their height to adapt it to the design we've been doing, the spacing, all of that good stuff, and the margin so that they can space themselves out to the side. So that's going to be another possibility here. You can even grow them horizontally if you want them to be on the other side instead of going down vertically. You can actually have them grow horizontally here. So that's pretty cool. For the utility, you're going to get the display behavior. This is going to affect all of them. So if you select the whole group and you change this to always show, all of your utility are now going to show. If you do this, you might want to reduce a little bit their size like this, because otherwise you're not going to be able to fit all of them here. So as you can see, they're all fitting right there, but they're never going to go past the width of the whole design. So obviously, if you increase the width, they're going to stop piling up like this. But you're pretty much free to go for whatever design your heart's desire here. Let's reset it back to something a little bit more visible, because we're going to show them only on cooldown. Actually, hold on a second. You can actually increase their top margin. Same thing as the top here. You can set this all the way down to 100 if you want to create a lot of space. And they're going to be sitting all the way back down there. So you're going to be able to modify that margin very easily here. Maintenance icon is pretty much going to be the same thing, width, height, spacing, margin. So you have the option to move this. And obviously, like we explained a little bit earlier, you can change the behavior of the maintenance icon. If you want your buff to show at all times so that you're fully reminded to apply them, this is going to be something that you're going to be able to do right here. All of them are going to show up. You can change their behavior, and you can play around with this to try to fit exactly to your need. Quick reminder again, please take note that all of these are hidden in rested area out of combat. So no matter even if you select always show, if you're in a rested area, it's not going to show. It's simply to keep the whole design clean. You don't really need to be reminded to apply Arcane Intellect while you're sitting in Orgrimmar, for example. The resources customization option here, this is going to be pretty cool. So you're going to be able to customize everything here, from the look, the height, even the text formatting for these. So for example, the health bar here, we could go ahead and load it real quick just for this quick purposes. We can increase the height of it if we want the bar to have like a nice health bar like this. This is going to be a possibility. If we want, we can even remove the absorb here to see the full gradient. You can change that gradient if you would like to have it based on your class. Maybe if you want to, you're like, hey, I'm a warlock. I would like my health bar to be purple. Like you can do that. You can select the first color. You can select the second color here. I mean, it's going to be similar to the soul shard here, but be creative, do whatever you want. You can also make the gradient be vertical here if you want the gradient to be, a little bit of a vertical gradient right there. So this looks pretty neat, right? Obviously, you might confuse it a little bit with the shard, but hey, you can do whatever you want here. You can also remove the gradient and only use the first color here if you don't want the gradient. That's even a possibility right there. So that's pretty cool. We're going to go ahead and resize this down a little bit. There we go for the purpose of this. And we're going to close this out and we're going to unload the health bar. There we go. We're going to move on with the options here. After the health bar, you're going to be able to modify the casting bar. So the casting bar, you're going to get access to the height of it. If you wanted to default to something a little bit larger here, you're going to be able to do that. And then you're going to have the gradient for the default state of the casting bar. So it's going to be red by default for all classes. And then you're going to have this gray color for anything that is uninterruptible. So if I do remember, actually Hearthstone is interruptible, it seems. So you can have your abilities. If I press this, I should be able to show it right there. There we go. So you're going to get this gray bar that is going to allow you to notice that your spell is uninterruptible. But if you don't want to see that, simply feel free to copy over the color here, put them in here, and you're going to get the same result. It's pretty much not going to show if it's interruptible or not. The soul shard, so you're going to get, obviously, I'm not going to go over the class-specific one, but here you should be able to notice all of your resources for your class, your holy power, your combo points, all of this, your mana bar, all of that is going to show up in here, and you're going to be able to fully customize the color, the gradient, the height, everything, even the text format. So for the health bar, for example, right now we're showing 100%, but I could show the full amount of health, formatted, full amount plus percentage, formatted plus percentage. You can do the same thing with the mana bar. That's going to be also a possibility. We do have a casting bar, so we got a little bit of a notice at the bottom here. If you don't want it to show up, again, simply click on it, load never, make sure you do the reload, and you're going to be good to go. All right, so we're pretty much done with the custom option here, but I want to show you something really cool. So if you ever mess up with the styling here and you simply want to reset, right? You simply want to go back and start again from scratch, click the reset button here. Everything is going to reset back to default for all of the custom option. If you've messed with some of the group and you've done things that you shouldn't be doing and things are starting to break, simply delete the group and re-import it again. But some of you are going to ask me, hey, I've customized everything, you know, like I got some really, really cool stuff here. I've got my own design, you know, like I've been applying some borders. I've been reducing the height, the spacing. Everything looks different than default. I've even changed the order of the abilities here, right? I've even changed the order. And I don't want to lose this whenever I import. Well, you can do that. So if I import a new copy here of the WeakAuras and I click Update Ors, you're going to see that custom configuration and group arrangement are checked here. So you're going to have two little checkboxes right here. Simply make sure that they're not checked. So the custom configuration is going to be kept and the group arrangement is going to be kept. Just keep in mind that those two settings are going to maybe contain some modification that I've done. So if I've decided that something should be in a different position, you're not going to get that update. But that should not be a major issue in some cases. If you ever run into some issues while updating without checking these options, make sure you simply do a fresh install and you should be good to go, right? But that's a possibility. So in most cases, you're going to be able to save your custom configuration and your group arrangement to keep everything exactly like you set it up in the first place. So one more point I want to cover here is how to change the font. So that's a very popular question, and I want to answer that really, really quickly here. So the default font that you see on the ability right here is actually the default World of Warcraft font. So there is no way currently with the way the WeakAuras are set up to change this through the add-on itself. This can be changed though with using add-ons like LVUI or OmniCC, which are going to be able to replace this number, and then you're going to have a little bit more customization options when it comes to that number. For everything else though, all the little numbers at the top of the ability here, and even the font for the resources bar, the casting bar, all of that can be changed in here. So for example, for the little number 1 here, over most of the dynamic effects, you can simply click on the whole group here. You can go into display and you're going to be able to find some of the text here, and you're going to be able to change the font right here. So right now I have not many loaded because I'm not using any add-ons. So all of this is going to be default font. But if you're using shared media, LVUI, or any of those, even detail will give you access to more font. You're going to be able to change it right here. You can do this for pretty much every group. You can do it for the resources as well. So if you want to go for the health bar, you want to modify the font here, the size, the color, you're going to be able to do that. So that's going to be done through here. But again, for the abilities themselves, for the main cooldown in the middle, you're going to need to use an external add-on to be able to modify these, like LVUI or OmniCC. All right, so before we close things off here, I want to go over a very quick FAQ segment. These might be repeat information of what you've already heard in the video, but I just want to go over some of the most frequently asked questions question. So let's go ahead and start with missing health bar. So when you click the auras here, you can see the health bar, but you don't know how to enable it. Simply click on the health bar for your class here in the resource group, go to the load section, and uncheck the load box here. It should now show up in your WeakAuras. There we go. Removing the cast bar. So if you don't want the WeakAura cast bar to show, and you would prefer the default casting bar, simply click on the cast bar here on your class, go into the load tab, and check never right here. After a quick reload, you should now have your default World of Warcraft casting bar here at the bottom. Changing the order of the spells and the resources bar to also fit more your keybinds. So in order to change this one, very straightforward, you can open up any of these group right here and simply change the order. So if I want Agony to appear before Unstable Affliction, for example, all I got to do is change the order. There we go. So now Agony is before Unstable Affliction. There we go. So you can change these. You can do the same thing with the resources. If you want the cast bar to show at the top, the health bar to show at the bottom, any of these, you can simply change the order within the group, and you're going to be good to go here. How can I make an ability glow off cooldown? So this is going to be very straightforward. I've added to every single cooldown-based ability, and even most of the damage over time one, a condition that will allow you to easily make them glow off cooldown without being in combat. So this first trigger here in most ability is going to have a glow visibility checkbox that's not checked. Checking it will simply now make the ability glow off cooldown while in combat. So now if I go in combat, you'll see that the ability now glows, letting me know that it's off cooldown. So that's going to work for pretty much every ability out there. Simply go over the ability, click on the condition, and then check the first condition here. Not every single one of them is going to have it because they're not all built the same, but this is going to be one of the option here. The condition, you can simply check this in order to have it glow. Loading the WeakAura per specialization. So this is now a little bit more complex. Back in Shadowland, we had a little bit more option here when it came to class and specialization loading. Now, there's only one category called class and specialization, which means that every ability in this WeakAura has a different setting for each ability. For example, Conflict Rate is only going to load for destruction, while Demonic Core is only going to load for demonology. So what that means is if you click the group here and you want to modify this segment here, you're going to mess up pretty much everything. What it's going to do is if you click, for example, one of these or uncheck one of these, it's going to pretty much mess up all of the options here. So I recommend that you do not touch any of those options while selecting the major main group. What you can do, though, a quick workaround, is have the WeakAuras only load for specific role. I'm on a Warlock right now, so I only have one role, but if you're playing a Paladin, for example, you could go ahead and check this right here once, and then check it twice, and then you would be able to load certain auras only based on your role. So if you want to only have the WeakAuras load as a damage dealer and as a tank, and you don't want them for healer, that's one way to do it. But you're not going to be able to customize it based on spec, simply by role. Now, if you would like an ability to show in a different location based on your specialization, you can do that. So, for example, I have Summon Soulkeeper here for Warlock. That is a global talent, so it is a class talent, which means it's going to load for all the classes, right? All the specialization. So right now it is set to load to Affliction, Demonology, and Destruction. We only have one copy. But if you wanted, you could simply duplicate it, type Affliction here, just like that, just to keep track of what's going on. And then simply click here, do Warlock Affliction. There we go. And then this one here, we're obviously going to remove Affliction so it doesn't load twice. And now we can move this one. So if I want it to be in a different place, then I can put it in a different place, and it's now going to load in a separate order than the other specializations. So you can do this with pretty much any ability. Feel free to duplicate these. Make sure you change their name too, so you can properly remember where they are and what they're loading for. One last thing here is going to be to move your interrupt and your CC, for example, into the left and right group. If you remember, by default, these ability, your CC utility ability at the bottom here, are showing only on cooldown. So if you want, for example, Mortal Coil to be on the right side here, like it was in Shadowland, for example, right? Well, you're going to need to also make it show always. There we go. And now it's going to change that behavior. You're going to do a quick reload, obviously, to have everything properly loaded up, and you'll be good to go. So we're simply going to go ahead and reset that. But that's how you're going to be able to customize those into separate groups. One last thing is if you're trying to modify a group positioning and it keeps resetting and you're wondering why, like I mentioned previously, all of the groups here are dynamically positioned by the auras. So you're not going to be able to grab the resources and simply move them around. You're not going to be able to do that. If you want to customize, make sure you go through the custom option. And then here you can add padding, margin, all that you need here in order to push things off and off each other if you want more spacing to fit more elements. But this WeakAura, this suit of WeakAura, is made to be used as a whole. So that means all of the group should be in here, and they all need to be stayed in their place. So make sure that if you want to modify anything, open the group, modify the ability within each group, or you can modify the custom option here, but you're not going to be able to simply like take the resources out of the group and use them on their own. This is meant to be used as a full class HUD right here. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully I was able to answer most of the question that you had regarding the installation and the configuration. If you have anything else, if you need help with something, if you have a bug you would like to report, simply join our Discord. The link is down below in the description, discord.gg/Luxthos. Simply join it. We have a help section. We have a ticket section. You're going to be able to post your issue, your problem, your request, and we'll do our best to try to answer it. I'm also live on Twitch pretty much every single day. If you want to come hang out, chat, ask a question, whatever your heart desire, join us. Come throw a follow. Come say hi. It will make me happy. Until then, my friend, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and hopefully you're going to have a ton of fun playing your favorite class in World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Excited to see you there.